All right. So why don't you start us off with Wise, a company that both of us are really into.
Yeah. We even visited their offices. We met their CTO, and we had a member of the WISE policy team on the podcast, like a year ago. Exciting company. Let me tell you about WISE, ticker WISE on the London Stock Exchange, and soon to be on either the NYSE or the NASDAQ, because they're about to dual list and list in the USA. They were born of around FX and money transfers, but they're now essentially building money without borders, and they're disrupting the vast $32 trillion cross-border payments market. Unlike the legacy banks that rely on the slow and expensive correspondent banking system, Wise has built its own proprietary payments network, Wise Platform, which connects to local payment systems in the many countries they operate in. The market consistently misunderstands Wise's business model, which is to reduce fees on FX down to eventually zero cost money transfers for customers, and at the same time taking massive scale. And it has got 15 million personal and business customers. But the part of the company I've always been most excited about is Wise Platform, which is where they've essentially white labeled their network and their capabilities, and they allow partner banks to plug into it at a fee. And that allows smaller, typically regional banks, to give the same high speed, high reliability, low cost transfers to their own customers. So it's an incredible value proposition. And as I said, Wise is relisting right now. Probably by August 2025, they'll be primarily listed in the US. And that's probably going to be, it shouldn't change anything, but it's probably going to be a catalyst for the stock. It's going to increase liquidity, attract US institutional investors, and raise brand awareness. And like stuff, FinTech and tech in the US typically trades at a higher multiple than US tech, even though it might be the same company under the covers. I really like Wise. I'm a personal and business customer. I'm giving this 8 badgers out of 10 as a conviction rating. It's a profitable, mission driven disruptor with a significant long term growth runway. It's got superior infrastructure, a deflationary pricing model, and an expanding product ecosystem that gives it a powerful competitive advantage.
Okay, Badger, I like it. I like the company very much. I use it. But this investment also like Adyen feels to me maybe it's similar to when I talk about biotechs, when I actually try to understand like why what makes it a good investment rather than a good company and how it actually makes its money versus another competitor doing something similar. Why this one and not that one? You know, PayPal versus Adyen yesterday, and Wise. I don't know what Wise's nearest competitor would be. I'm sort of at a loss.
Its competitors are the legacy banks. I mean, I have a bank account with HSBC because I used to work for them for 25 years, and they're a great bank, global bank. And I have also accounts with Wise. And then just to bring it to life from a customer perspective, it's almost ridiculous. It's embarrassing for HSBC when you put the customer propositions side by side. I travel to the States. I'm coming out for 3 months every year. I'm coming out this January for ski season. And I'll be spending low five figures dollars when I'm there on food and booze and lift passes and accommodation. So I usually ship over like a bunch of cash from my HSBC UK account to my HSBC US account to spend. And if I were to transfer that money from HSBC to HSBC, which is what every normal person would do, it's going to cost me about 100 to 150 basis points more, like more than 1% in fees. They might say it's fee free, but I'm getting such an inferior FX rate. So what I instead do is so daft is I take my sterling and I move it to my Wise account. I do my incredibly low cost FX transaction on Wise, and then I ship the money from my Wise account to my HSBC US account. And it takes like an extra 2 minutes of like clicking buttons on the phone, and the money arrives same day. And I've saved myself like a couple of $100, and I'm doing that every time. And that's a significant advantage for people who, and we're just talking about the end customer benefit here, people who actually keep an eye on the pennies and, this stuff adds up and they don't want to get ripped off by their financial providers. But not only does Wise give me that, now they've got the Wise account. You and I talked about this last year. You realized you had like a bunch of cash sat on Wise, and once you turn on the interest product or the investment product, you start getting actually a really healthy return. Like, I can't get 4% interest from HSBC. I can get that from Wise, and I can get even more if I'm willing to use the investment product, albeit it comes with investment risk.
So could the slogan of Wise be as simple as like it's the better, more modern bank?
Yeah, so they haven't got a banking license because they don't do everything. They don't aspire to do everything a bank does. Like, they can't give loans, for example, and they can't issue credit cards. But essentially, like, if you didn't understand that nuance, yeah, like, you've got an account, you earn interest, and you pay for stuff with your debit card. That's how most people use a bank.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's why I mean it's in some ways it's so simple from the consumer perspective. And banks are some of the largest market caps in the world, like in the hundreds of
Yeah.
billions. So if Wise at its what's its market cap like? Is it like 10 billion?
It's had a little bit of a run up of late. Let me give you the exact number. Hang on, where are we? Wise. It is $14 billion. I think that's been like transferred to dollars to like about 11 billion sterling, something like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mentioned that just relative to the size, 250
Mhm.
billion for whatever JP Morgan versus 14 billion for a better experience. Not apples and orange, I mean not apples to apples, but the scale is meaning there's room to grow, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that's, coming back to what I said about Wise platform, like, the growth to me, the most exciting part is, like, they're not partnering with JP Morgan, but they are partnering with companies like Nubank and like major regional banks in the US and other, like, sort of fintech, like technology forward banks around the world, because it's so much easier for those banks just to say, okay, we're going to plug in Wise behind the scenes. You probably, if your bank's using Wise, you wouldn't even see that. You wouldn't know that. You just think, oh, this is incredible. My own bank is giving me like super low cost, high speed transfers and really cost efficient FX. But behind the scenes, it's actually Wise powering that. The fact that this fintech has kind of come out of nowhere in the last 10 years, give or take, and now they've literally reinvented the way, like, the correspondent banking system, the way money actually moves around the world. And the magic is, without going too much detail, the magic is the money doesn't move. It's literally just like adjusting ledgers. In retrospect, it's so obvious, but like, no one figured this out until Wise's co-founders came along and came up with the solution literally at a dinner party.
All right. So I'm looking forward to this popping up on the Nasdaq.